Hello, as the moderator of the Luncheon Chat with Superintendent Brewer, I would like to welcome you. My name is Jennifer Spurline. This meeting is being presented remotely via Zoom for the public. If you wish to share comments or ask questions, please use the Q&A button located at the bottom of the Zoom conference window. Submit your name and wait to be called on. When it is your turn to speak, your name will be called and your mic will be enabled. And if you don't have a mic, if you would please put that in the Q&A as well and just go ahead and type your comment or question. I will speak that on your behalf. Now to Superintendent Brewer. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much, Jen. I appreciate it. So welcome back. This is our fourth week of doing the superintendent luncheons. I certainly appreciate folks coming out and spending some time with me each Friday afternoon to hear updates from the school district. The last several weeks, we've had special guests, and today our focus is WIAA and interscholastic activities for the state of Washington and also Port Angeles School District. So special guests with me today, I have Dwayne Johnson, the athletic director from Port Angeles High School, and Brent Washee, which is a coach and association leader for our coaches in the Port Angeles School District. So we'll get to them in just a few minutes, but again, thank you for your time this afternoon. So as I do each week, I update the community on where we're at with regards to our numbers. And we're doing a great job. This is and Jen, if you could put this in the chat link so folks can, bookmark this page. This is a great resource that really helps, guide the conversation around just, transmission rate within the community, as well as focus on, what we're focused on is getting our students back in schools. And so this is a summary of all of the COVID-19 activity for Clallam County over the course of the last several or many months. And so the important pieces here are positivity rate is at 1.8%, and the rate, and as you know, if you've been here the last couple meetings, we're really watching the rate per 100,000. And so as you can see, the number of days Port Angeles or Clallam County has been less than 75 per 100,000, which is that target to stay below, is at 24 days. And the number of days we've been below 25 per 100,000, which is the low rating, is at 12. And so we're making really good progress. And I want to really, compliment the community for the commitment to really work together to try to work on the appropriate safeguards to eliminate the community transmission. And so a real quick update as it relates to progress of the school district. I'm really, and I understand, the frustration in our community. Believe me, I'm frustrated as well. And, we are in this together. We're educators from the board to the superintendent to building principals, teachers, coaches, para-eds, secretaries, bus drivers. We're all in it because we love our kids and we want our kids back in schools, and we want our kids back into, interscholastic activities that our students can engage in. And we're all advocating for the same thing. And so, I'm proud of the fact that we're making progress towards that end goal. And sometimes, we look at that as it's not fast enough. But I want to really caution the community around, if we move too fast and we slip up with regards to the safeguards necessary to assure that we don't have community transmission within our schools, it can actually help us regress. And I do not want to do that. And I know our staff has no interest in that. I know the community has no interest in that. And so, to date, we currently have nearly 100 students that are on IEPs, or special ed students that are attending schools regularly throughout the week. I'm really proud of that. We're one of the first, districts on, in this area, and I include the Kitsap Peninsula, that are currently doing that. And so that's really helped us to work through some of the safeguards that we need to impose to make sure that, our staff and our students are safe in their interactions at schools. We also have a large number of vocational programs that are now bringing back students on campus at the high school and the middle school, auto shop and JROTC and video production and environmental ed. So a number of great opportunities for students that our teachers are committed to, and starting to return students to campus in small scale, students of 5 or less, or groupings of 5 or less. And as we announced this week, we're targeting October 5th as the date we bring back kindergarten students. And, I've heard a lot of frustration this week with regards to bringing back, how come we're just bringing back kindergarten, or why are we bringing back kindergarten? Well, I want to just spend just a second to speak to that. Our schools this year will look very different. The state of Washington, and this is not the local health department. This is not Dr. Allison Unthank. The Department of Health at the state of Washington has provided us with guidance and or requirements for returning to school. Some of it is in the form of requirements, other is in the form of guidance. So we have a number of things we have to do to prepare to bring any group of students back. First, and I'm going to go through this really quickly, every person that comes on our campus, whether it be a student, a staff, or a visitor, has to do an attestation. I didn't say a test, an attestation. They have to attest daily prior to coming to school that they're not sick, answering questions like, have you had symptoms over the last 24 hours? Have you had close exposure of a COVID-19 positive? We have to do that every day. And so that's a significant change, and we're going to need partnership from families to get that done. We need to do temperature checks every day a student returns to our school. We have to provide the appropriate safeguards to assure 6-foot social distance at all times within our schools, so that if there is a positive case, we don't have to quarantine an entire class or an entire school. And so we have to work through safeguards and protocols to make sure that, in a class or in an experience on our campus, we maintain social distancing. We have to wear masks at all times. We have to look at all of our procedures, and this is my 32nd year in public education. And we have to look at every procedure, from how do students use the restroom? How do they play it? How do they engage at recess? How do they, how do they eat lunch? How do they eat breakfast? And so we have to look at all those procedures and create the appropriate safeguards to make sure that we can maintain that social distance and assure that we don't have that community transmission within schools. And so there's a number of other requirements that are required of school systems, but it creates a situation where, we have to do this right. If we bring back too many students too fast and lose control of, what the end goal here is, we'll regress. We saw how simple this was, in late August, when we just had a couple of areas of our community that brought us up to greater than 75 per 100,000 in our county. And that was not, broad based. That was a couple of experiences in downtown Port Angeles. And so, if we don't get this right, we could have that same thing happen within our schools. And I, for one, and this board is committed to not letting that happen. And so we're going to work really hard at the appropriate safeguards, but that means we got to have slow, steady progress. And that's not going to be fast enough for some of you. I understand that, and I appreciate that. And believe me, I'm frustrated right there with you. So, but we're going to get this right. So with that being said, that's just a little bit about, where we are making progress on returning students to campus. But today is really about WIAA and activities and interscholastic activities for Port Angeles. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce Dwayne Johnson, Port Angeles Athletic Director. Dwayne.
Hello, everyone. Can you see that document that I'm sharing right now with WIAA? And that is our main guidance right now for any interscholastic activities that they've been processing since September 19th. Again, this has been full information that we're trying to get the coaches is to do a what's flying across the AD test today. And so I commit that to the middle school coaches and to the high school coaches.
Hey, Dwayne, just a minute. You're breaking up. Give it just a minute and try it again. Try it again, Dwayne. You were just breaking up. We couldn't hear what you were saying.
How does that sound right now?
Very good. Very good.
Following the WIAA guidelines. Is that coming across okay, Brent? This is the ebb and flow of information that has come at us. There's emails that I send out to all head coaches and middle school coaches flying across the athletic director's desk. And the most clarity and transparent information that I can present from the Washington State Risk Management Pool and or Clear Risk Solutions, which is the other insurance company, but what we need to do to return to play. This came out and was processed on the 19th of this month, and we're looking at more considerations possibly that would happen, and we would move forward with access at this time. I know Marty Brewer and I have been talking and communicating, and along with Brent, on what we need to return to play. And first of all is a governor recommendation, and then the Department of Health and provide guidance and those required steps for us from the state level to the local level. Risk management, yes, we are with Washington State Risk Management Pool, and we are committed to the safety of our kids, but that also entails the governor and the Department of Health. School leadership is committed to play, which I want to echo to everybody online today, is that Marty Brewer has been on our side. We have been stepping together with this thing, and I want to say this to you. This is my document that I would like to throw at anybody, okay, because we were the first ones to do anything over the summer. This is 4.5 inches thick, and I'm not afraid of work. If anybody knows my reputation, is that we're going to get it done for kids. And what we did over the summer did work. And we're presenting that information both to WIAA and the West Central District and our league, the Olympic League itself. So those are those three entities that we have been navigating. With that, I wanted to bring you up to speed on Gig Harbor has been one of my colleagues, and they are allowing access because they do have a 6-stage approach to reopening their schools, and they're going to be in a 5-to-1 ratio, but also they're going to be in phase 4, where currently we in Clallam County are in phase 2, and that's going to happen on Monday. Out of the 24 sports that they offer, they've had 5 applications. And Coach Brent Washee would go ahead and testify to that. That's how we got to that booklet, okay? Because that has to be vetted and approved by our superintendent, okay? So that's the first place. That is the only school district out of the 90 schools in the West Central District that I know of that is allowing access starting Monday, the only ones. The second phase is communication between SQUIM and Port Angeles. And I was able to receive information today that SQUIM is not allowing access. Okay, starting on Monday. They're not open for business, just like Port Angeles. And so it's not the have and have-nots here. But those key considerations that we are following the directions of our superintendent is essential. And those recommendations, when they become new, are vetted out by our superintendent for what we're going to be able to do. With that, I have some opportunities I wanted to echo, and that is what the athletic department is doing right now based on the COVID piece. And we are moving a couple platforms. And so Arbiter is our big platform, and that's going to be rescheduling on olympicleague.com. That's also going to intertwine with our transportation department. And I've had meetings with Karen Ross on that aspect of it. And then officials, on how many officials we will have right now, because some will not be coming back. Up to 30% is what I'm being told. And we'll be able to pay those officials online, okay, right after the game has been scored. So that's been a good learning curve for us. The second phase of this thing is what we call final forms. And we're going to roll that out towards the end of the month, we're hoping. And that's for digital enrollment for the middle school and the high school. And all of the paperwork and forms will be signed off on by parents online. And any fees that would be incurred would then be also processed for that. And we are grasping that opportunity right now to move that forward. All of the physicals that we have on stock right now that are still compliant will be folded into that process, so parents don't have to worry about that. If a student athlete has a physical that is expired, then they would have to upload their own for us to see and document that, okay? With that, we are excited about school opening up on the 5th, because that's one of those first small steps, and that's access for our kiddos. Okay, and the agreement that we have is that we're going to follow those guidelines. So with that, the WIAA is fully committed. I know Mr. Brewer is on those meetings with the director of the WIAA, and that's firsthand knowledge, okay? And I appreciate his efforts and what he echoes back to our community for this leadership, because he is the one that is driving superintendents for access. I'm getting those questions on that document that I shared with you. What did you do to make it happen, Dwayne? I said, well, I had support of the superintendent first. He wanted that to happen, and we did. And so that confidence level is huge for me. So with that, Brent, I'm going to tag it off to you.
All right. Thank you, Coach Johnson. Guys, my name is Brent Washee. I'm the president of our Coaches Association, and I'm also the new head football coach here at Port Angeles High School. I'd really like to kind of start off by sincerely thanking our district admin team for giving me a couple moments today to talk about the work that's being done by coaches and also our Coaches Association. But more importantly, for their continued support of athletics, our coaches, and our student athletes. I can tell you as an association, we've discussed this. We know that our admin team sees the value that athletics bring to our community, all the great things that it does for kids, and we really appreciate their willingness to fight for us and represent us with the state associations that will hopefully allow us back on the field soon. That being said, it's been a pretty crazy time for coaches who are trying to manage teams while deciphering through a lot of the changing state guidelines that Coach Johnson alluded to there. While for the time being, we're not able to see our athletes, one thing that we as coaches all recognize is that right now it is more important than ever that we are working to continue to build and maintain our relationships with our kids, athletes, and teams. Since we just found out that access may be restricted to that open coaching period in October, November, a lot of us are attacking this problem and navigating this issue in different but extremely meaningful ways. I'd like to highlight some of those right now. Coach Euland and our boys basketball head coach has been helping to lead this charge with his basketball team. He has had almost all levels of athletes, youth basketball players through high school, taking part in physical challenges and leadership challenges that are being conducted online. He stayed connected through virtual meetings with his team. And more importantly, he's assisting other coaches and programs to do the same. Coach Girardi and Coach Johnson have some awesome plans put together for our cross-country athletes. They're maintaining connections with their athletes through weekly running and workout challenges. They're having interested athletes competing in an organized virtual race series using GPS and phone apps. And then those kids, they submit their times and they're ranked nationally with other cross-country runners. I think that is so cool for them to be able to do and provide those kids some type of competitive outlet. When I look at Coach Gale and our wrestling team, they've had probably one of the biggest challenges, during this pandemic so far. The question for him is, how do they provide meaningful practice in his sport, given all the restrictions that are in place? When I spoke with him yesterday, his plan for the coming time period was to focus not so much on grappling and takedowns and reversals, but on team building, and hope that his team is on team building and really hoping to be able to take his kids eventually on hikes, do some things where they can stay socially distant, and then eventually be part of our district strength program if access is, or when access is granted. As a football team, I can tell you that we definitely have several things in store. To be honest with you, this pandemic has been a pretty difficult time to try to rebuild a program, but I'm extremely lucky to have great coaches and amazing athletes that are committed to getting Rough Rider football back on track. This summer, we were able to take steps, as Coach Johnson talked about, even working in pods of 5 and without a ball, we had a series of practice that focused on the things that we could control, like formations and backfield actions. We'll be relaunching our virtual academy on October 7th. That academy includes, weekly Wednesday meetings that focus on leadership and character development. along with the release of some offensive and defensive scheme videos and some quizzes so that kids can still feel like they're gaining and achieving during this time. Our coaches have also been investing a ton of time with me. We've had bi-weekly staff meetings to help to develop scheme and really just talk about how we can best serve kids and adapt to the ever-changing landscape. As an association, our board's been working very hard to help ensure that all coaches have the tools to help build connections throughout our athletic department, and that coaches that want or need help, connecting with their kids, through virtual platforms and other things, have access to it. We have a coaches forum that I'm extremely excited about that's planned for October 5th, and some awesome coach capacity seminars led by Kevin Bryant that we're working with the district to be able to provide coaches to help increase their tools or the tools that they have in their toolbox. Overall, regardless of the current situation, I can tell, you as a community that our district coaches are working their butts off. This time right now is harder than ever. But one thing that they're keeping at the forefront is that question of like, what's best for kids? We know that athletics is what's best for kids. While we can't be participating, what comes right next in line is that connection piece with coaches, teams, and we're doing our best to try to provide that. So I'll kick it back over to you, Mr. Brewer.
Thank you very much, Brent and Dwayne. I appreciate it. Before we open it up to Q&A, I just want to reiterate, like this district, from the board, the school board, to the superintendent, to administrative coaches, teachers, you name it, and this community, we're committed to get our students back on the court, the field, whatever venue that might be. And recent developments over the last 24 hours is, there's been some frustration. I personally am not on social media, but I am well informed on some conversations that are being had on social media. And, I'm concerned about, the focus towards, whether that be Dr. Unthink or superintendent, I can handle it, or our school board. I want the community to hear loud and clear today that we're committed to not only bringing our students back to school, as many districts are challenged to even try that now, but we're committed to bringing our athletes back on the field, the court, whatever that may be. And so, I just want our community to be really careful around, where is that anxiety or that focused anger, because this district is working hard on your behalf to make sure that we do what's right by our students. I personally have attended within the last 2 weeks a meeting with the governor's office, with the Department of Health, and I'm not talking the state or the local, the Department of Health, WIAA, OSPI, our local health department, a regional superintendent meeting, and a super regional superintendent meeting. I'm speaking on this behalf and advocating to get our students back on the court, the field, and back into schools. And so I understand the frustration of our community. I empathize with that. I'm frustrated as well. But we're working hard as a leadership team, board included, to create the right scenario where we can return to the field and return to the classroom. So I want the community to hear loud and clear that we're working on your behalf, and the anger that some have, I get it. But be careful where that anger is guided towards, because you have a lot of good people working on your behalf, including Coach Johnson, Coach Washee, all the coaches in the school district, administration, board, teachers. We're working on your behalf, and we're going to get this done. We value what we have here. So, appreciate this opportunity just to share a little bit of my frustration over the last 24 hours on some of the developments that have been taking place in the community. I just want the community here, we're committed to you, and we're going to get this done. So with that being said, Jen, let's go to questions.
Right, and we have several. So again, for those listening, if you want to make a comment or have a question, please type your name in the Q&A and we will happily call on you. We do have several without mics or that are wishing to be anonymous. So I will start with those. The first is, and I believe this will be for you, Marty. What is in-class instruction going to look like when the kids go back into schools? There is a rumor floating around that kids will still be on their Chromebooks the whole time in the classroom. And so I think that's the question that is being asked. Will they just be sitting at their desk on a Chromebook when we return to the hybrid model?
The answer is no. They will not be sitting on a Chromebook. We're going to take advantage of in-class instruction, particularly with the elementary age students. And they will have, more normal-like instruction on what you would see prior to COVID. It will look different. The spacing will look different within a classroom. The teacher and the students will be wearing masks and/or shields. We'll have a heightened sensitivity towards the safeguards. But no, in-person instruction will look very similar, if not the same to prior to COVID exposure. I mean, we want to maximize in-person instruction, and that's how we do so.
Thank you. The next, again, I think is going to be for you, Marty. Are you able to, or have you ran a letter grade report to reflect grades now as in comparison to last year? They're not looking for the attendance, but the actual grade letters. They're also inquiring about if we know the percentages of students that are actually reporting to the live Google meetings, if we're tracking that.
Yeah, as far as running letter grade reports at this point in time, I don't have that data at this point in time. We are tracking attendance, and I don't have I'll get a recent number on that. I see Michelle Olson in the room, and she would have a better indication of what attendance looks like at the 3 levels: middle, elementary, and high school. I will come back around to that. Or actually, Michelle's opened her mic. Michelle, do you have an answer to that?
I could give a little bit of information. I can't give exacts on the letter grades part of that question, but I can tell you that our teachers in the secondary and the admin are reviewing letter grades by class, by student, and seeing how students are progressing, and they're also reviewing their attendance data. For our live Google Meets, again, I don't have the exact percentages, but all of our teachers in every classroom, K-12, are required to take daily attendance. And one of those ways that they can show of being in attendance for the day is to be part of a Google Meet. We definitely, if you compare this fall to last spring, we definitely have an increase in student participation and engagement from the Google Meet to accessing their learning platform, whether that's a Google Classroom or a Seesaw platform on the younger grades.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right, the next question I think is going to be again for you, Marty. You're popular. What is the soonest we could see high schoolers back in class?
I've been, in June, in June and July, I was trying to kind of make a best estimate or a best guesstimate as to timelines. And I quickly found out that, the COVID experience has made it nearly impossible to do that. And so I've been very cautious around putting timelines to, students returning, to class. And so, I just, that's something that, because I try to be a man of integrity and a man of my word. And, I just simply don't have a good gauge on that. Not that I'm not trying to be forthcoming. I talked to many parents this week, and it's based on success. And so I was asked a pointed question, well, what does success mean? Well, success comes in two categories for me. One, the community transmission rate stays low, just as it is now. But 2, the community or the schools do not experience community transmission. It's only a matter of time as we start opening up schools until we end up with a positive within our schools. But we have to control that so it doesn't spread within the school, because that will close the school. And so, you know, those two pieces are critical. And the third piece is the procedures in place to allow the next grade to come in. And so with, you know, focusing on a grade right now, kindergarten, you know, we'll be able to take all of our resources and help our Ks, you know, with, and our families with attestation and temperatures and social distance and mask and those procedures I referenced earlier. So my hope is, you know, that period of time is short and we can demonstrate that success and build upon it, and then bring back first and second grade, and then move into stage 2.2. So, you know, I really just don't have a good gauge on, you know, what that looks like beyond just kindergarten next week. And again, I try to be a man of my word, and I don't want to set dates and timelines that I just simply won't be able to live up to. So I apologize to the individual asking the question, but I'm, you know, I'm not prepared to answer that today.
The next is a two-part question. The first part is, if we need the governor's approval, he already approved the PAC-10, so why not high school? The second part to that question is, how could kids practice in the summer with higher numbers and in the same phase, but not now?
Yeah, great questions. I anticipate, and again, as I referenced, you know, we've been working with government agencies across the board, and I anticipate the governor and or the Department of Health coming up with guidance that gives us the ability to get our students out back on the fields. The real challenge is, this is the decision tree that is produced not by Dr. Unthink. Again, I think there's some anger towards Dr. Unthink, and she's just doing her job. And this is guidance by the Department of Health that outlines how we decide to get students back on the field and back into the classroom. You can see that there's the high, moderate, and low rate on the far left column, and then you can see how that relates to education. If you look at the moderate rate, which, you know, come Monday of next week, we have now 4 weeks in the moderate range, which is what Dr. Unthink indicated we need to do prior to returning to in-person learning. If you look here at the education column, it says recommend distance learning as described above, in addition to consider expanding in-person learning to elementary students. That's exactly what we're doing. And then you continue reading, it says over time, consider a hybrid in-person learning for middle and high school students. It's exactly what we're doing. But then you go to the extracurricular, and this is the real challenge. And this is what we've been asking for additional guidance on. And this what makes it different from the summer. You can read that it says, strongly recommend canceling or postponing in-person extracurricular activities when we're in the moderate range. So that's the deal breaker right there. Now, one will say, well, wait a minute, that says recommended or recommendation. Well, you know, we've been working, and anybody that owns their own business understands this. We've been working with our insurance carrier, and when the Department of Health, the State Department of Health, recommends that we cancel or postpone, and we operate outside that guidance, we have no liability coverage. We're a $54 million organization, and we quite simply can't afford to run this district without liability coverage. That's the challenge. So we've been advocating with the Department of Health, the governor's office, with WIAA, with OSPI, that has to be changed. That doesn't give us a path to getting our kids back on the court and the field. So that's what's, and I believe, and I've been told that change could come as soon as yesterday, you know, and it didn't, obviously, but it's coming very soon. And I think it's going to be a positive change for student athletes trying to get back on the field and the court. That's my gut. I don't have any insider information, but we've been pushing hard to change that very piece. And again, you know, recommendation comes in the form of a mandate when our insurance company looks at that. That's that's the harsh reality of what we're dealing with regards to that statement. So, you know, this document, and Jen, can you put this in the in the chat as well. This document aligns to our reopening plan and aligns to our philosophy to bring students back, on campus. And, it's really the guide. And we need it adjusted and updated so that we can do what we know is right for our student athletes. And with regards to the Pac-10 and Governor, I can't speak to that. I'm fully vested in high school and K-12 education, and so I haven't had much time to really pay attention to what's happening with the Pac-12. But if that is progress, based on the last, what Pac-10 did a month or so ago, and Washington State's universities. That's progress that will eventually roll down to interscholastic activities, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Again, I don't have any insider's information, but I think change is coming, and it could come in as soon as today or first part of next week. And that's what I'm hopeful for. So, Jen, did I answer all of those questions?
I believe so. There was a follow-up. I think it's out of the frustration of why not seniors in the building building sooner, since they do not get a redo.
Yeah.
And this is their final year.
Yep. And yeah, I hear that frustration. I feel that frustration. But I'm working, and we're working the best we can with regards to state agencies to try to make it happen. So the individual asking the question, you have my commitment and this school district's commitment. We're gonna work hard to try to get you back in school. That's what I'm here for. But it's not as simple as blaming the school board or blaming the superintendent or blaming the local health official. It's bigger than that. And so we're working, and I'll continue to work on your behalf. That's my commitment to you. Now, with regards to the one question I didn't answer around the summer programs, during the summer, this decision tree that I referenced just a minute ago, it was actually published first part of August. So it was new. So the summer programs didn't have that guidance. In fact, WIAA and also the Department of Health came together and gave us guidance for bringing student athletes back on campus to practice during the summer, and we followed that. So this new document that was produced the first part of August created the challenge. And so.
All right, thank you. Next question is on Facebook. Someone is stating that Prudential School District staff are saying that SQUIM is allowing athletes access. Is this true?
I can answer that, Marty. I've been in contact with the athletic director at SQUIM, and that is not true. They are not being allowed access on Monday. That is confirmed with that. As far as the hope goes, I wanted to share the plan and process from our coaches in what the WIAA has done. Coach Washee, can you see that okay? Okay, and we're looking at the WIAA seasons for these seniors, for these juniors, for these sophomores, for these freshmen at the high school level right here. And we're going to roll out season 2, season 3, and season 4 right now based on access that we have a plan right now starting in December 27th, 28th right there. And that would include basketball for boys and girls, bowling, boys swim and dive, gymnastics, and possibly wrestling. There is one caveat with gymnastics. I sit on the WIAA board with that, and their coaches association recommended based on access to the different clubs, because most schools don't have access to the high school equipment, or the high school doesn't have gymnastics equipment. They go to a local club. And so they are restricting access right now until further notice. So that's not included right now. I know Coach and I are communicating that piece right there. I think another question we had was, we're following the risk management recommendations for access right now. And I know one of the pieces is that I also meet with the West Central District leadership team. All of the league presidents and we get together each Monday for that. I know I've been getting questions that may answer some that are coming at us, but The West Central District Executive Board that I'm on, we are currently communicating with the WIAA on the regionalization of West Central District Championships that will be included with possible state championships. And that would be over the 4 regions in the state right now. I hope Rob Gale, wrestling coach, is online, and he could echo part of this piece, is that what wrestling has done has worked. And they're looking at a parallel with that, with the same possibility of a district championship would then mirror a state championship for that region. Right now, our West Central District 3 is looking at being paired with District 4 down south right now. And that's continual channels that are being opened. These are considerations. They're being developed because schools are not allowed to travel overnight. Schools are not allowed, individual school transportation is limited right now. They can only travel so far or not at all. And the local county health department has phased jurisdiction in play. The next challenge we have, if we're not going to have a regular state championship, would then be what district would be allowed on their property to host something like that. And I know Coach Gale in wrestling knows that because we hosted it here in Port Angeles, boys and girls, at one point in time. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. So Leah does not know if she has a mic, so I am going to try to enable her mic. So Leah, if you're there, otherwise I will ask the question on your behalf. Okay, so isn't it possible to allow the first grades of every school and go from there? So kindergarten, 7th, and 9th. It would expedite the return to school for all students while still abiding by the requirements.
Again, here's the decision tree for state of Washington. And I'll look in which is where we're at. And again, Dr. Unthink has, and I believe this is spot on, because the last thing we want to do is teeter between opening schools and closing schools. That will be more frustrating than what we're dealing with now. And so she came out early on to say we need to be stable in a level prior to moving towards, opening schools. Therefore, she said 28 days in a moderate or low range to consider opening schools. And so again, if you look at the Department of Health guidance and you read the education column here, which is recommending distance learning as described, with the exception of elementary students, and then over time consider adding hybrid at the middle and high school. That's our plan. And, I get the school of thought around, 7 and 9. It's actually a part of our plan. It's 2.3 once we get our K-6 learners back on site. So, but again, to, follow, Department of Health recommendations with regards to this guidance is what we're all about. And that's going to keep the district in a safe location as it relates to the health provisions that school districts have to comply with.
Thank you. I'm now going to enable the mic for Casey. So if you're able to talk, please do. Otherwise, I will ask your question.
So we are 2 days now away from being in the low risk category, as that means over 14 days by the document just shared, which would say we would start to consider low and moderate risk sports. Is that accurate, or were we just going to continue to kind of wait for more information to make that decision?
Yeah, the low risk category would apply, once we meet or exceed 28 days.
All right, anything further, Casey?
That is it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, so the next question is actually a follow-up for Coach Johnson. The question is, does that mean that gymnastics may be moved to a different season, or will it not happen at all if clubs are not able to host high school teams?
Right now, the plan is to begin in season 2 with gymnastics and making right now these local businesses as well as access, because again, they're a business and they
Just a
have.
minute, Dwayne, hold on just a minute. Take your mic off and try it again. You're breaking up again.
Can you hear me now? All right. Right now, in my meeting with WIAA and the Coaches Association, we're still looking at December 28th for access on move right there. For the state championship, again, they're looking at regionalization of District 3 right now, and possibly District 4 within that. Allowing access is a recommendation from the WIAA, and working locally, I'm hoping that we will be able to begin some type of a practice earlier than COVID-19. But that's a goal for state that we're having, and it's one of the guidelines that we're working for state gymnastics. So that comes directly from the Coaches Association president for gymnastics. Does that help?
Coach, that was spotty when it came through. Can you maybe send me some of that information and I'll happily post it?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the next question, again, I think it's going to be for you, Superintendent Brewer. Can you discuss kindergartners returning and go over what that will look like in more detail?
So for a kindergartner to return, the very first thing that has to happen, let's take it the day of a kindergartner. Very first thing that has to happen for a kindergartner return is in the morning, his or her parents or guardian would complete the attestation. And we're working on an electronic attestation app that, that we're running a prototype now with regards to staff to be able to, do that by way of text or email in the morning. And so we need a partnership with the families to make sure that attestation occurs prior to the student leaving his or her home in the morning. And again, that's going to ask questions like, in the last 24 hours, have you had a stomach ache, or have you had a headache, a fever, cough, nausea, all of the key symptoms of COVID-19, which unfortunately is the key symptoms of the flu and also the cold. So, but that's the very first thing that needs to happen. Student then either rides the bus, which we will social distance on the bus wearing a mask, and or parents deliver to the school, and then we'll take their temperature as well. They'll line up outside or within the school. We'll have social distancing in line, practice, so that, students have 6 feet between one another. Students will come into the classroom. They will have a temperature check. Anything greater than 100.4, that's 100.4, will be considered a temperature. Anything less than that will not. And if the student has a temperature, then we have the appropriate safeguards working with our school nurses and secretaries to be able to communicate and ask that the student, go home for the day. Student gets into the classroom will look different in the way that, that's why we're looking at a hybrid model A/B. There will be anywhere from, depending on the size of the classroom, from 12 to 14, maybe 15 students in a class, and that depends on the school. Each one of our classrooms are a little different in size. So depending on how many students we can fit in a classroom at any given building, they will come in, they will have a a desk and or table that will be social distance. A lot of our buildings have started to mark positions on the floor so that we can make sure that desks stay where they need to be, and so forth. So the teacher will assure that adults and the students are wearing masks throughout the day. That we're working out the details as far as what meals look like, and how that will occur in a social distance manner. And so next week, we're going to schedule a meeting with all the kindergarten parents, with Michelle Olson, myself, all the principals. And so that will be coming out very soon so that we can have an event similar to this event on Zoom, where we can bring in all of the kindergarten parents or across the entire district, where we will go over procedures, like the lineup procedures, restroom procedures, eating procedures within the school. All will be outlined, at that particular meeting. So with all that being said, our teachers are masterful at loving kids. So I don't want to create this, sterile environment where, there's not that love. There will be that love. Our staff love their kids, want our kids to return. We understand, Dr. Unthink understands that, at times that 6-foot barrier will be broken, but that can't be greater than 10 minutes in length, any given hour. And so, yes, teachers will be moving around and students will be moving around. So it's not come sit down at your desk and you're here in a desk all day. That's not going to be the experience. So, we will do our very best as, educators of Port Angeles School District to make sure it's it'll be a different environment, but a very inviting environment, one in which, students love being there. And because I know our teachers love to be there. So, that's just some of what a day might look like for a kindergarten student. But we'll get in more detail next week with our kindergarten families. And again, as we run this test protocol, we'll learn from what we're doing well and what we need to correct for the next, the next grades that we'll bring in back on our campus. So, more to follow next week.
Thank you. Jackie, I'm now enabling your mic. Jackie, are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
I was wondering if the WIAA does suspend gymnastics preseason workouts, would the school district be allowed to approve conditioning workouts that don't include gymnastics equipment and activities? I'm really concerned about my athletes getting injured with no conditioning before season starts.
Go ahead, Coach.
I need to help with Brent on this because he's having access with the weight room once that gets approved. Possibly, yes, is the answer right now. That we would look forward to some type of conditioning program like we would other programs. Okay, I know we have a document in play right now that's looking to be approved for weight training or / conditioning. Coach, you want to echo part of that for Jackie?
Well, just kind of what we proposed to the district was a plan so that all coaches would have access to the weight room after school, essentially through a sign-up process where we could get where we could roll 20 kids in at a time, not all in the weight room at once, 10 in the weight room, divided up 5 and 5. And then 10 more outside, being guided by coaches in a strength and conditioning program there. And then essentially doing 2 to 3 sessions of that, depending upon how much participation we are getting. That was the goal. We've kind of been waiting for the green light for that, but obviously there's obstacles in the way. My question for you, Coach, is I don't know if that's what Jackie's referring to, considering like what her conditioning workouts for a gymnast might be a lot different from what, you know, some of the other sports are looking like in the use of her equipment and a private facility and those things. Jackie, can you speak to exactly what you were looking to try to be able to do with them?
Yeah, I mean, weight room's probably the last place that, I mean, if that's what we had to do, but like we do need to do things with more like body weight, flexibility, stuff like that. So last season, Avail Fitness did some classes for us for free. She can't do that right now because they're struggling financially, but like, I mean, we could do it just in a gym, like, you know, at the high school, or on just the floor at the gymnastics center if we weren't using like, you know, gymnastics equipment, but stuff like HIIT classes, you know, so less weights, more body weight.
Yeah, we would get a proposal to us for that, and you know, Mr. Brewer and I will have that conversation and hopefully get a thumbs up on that. But yes, conditioning, absolutely.
Okay, I'll just get back with you about what I need to do to follow up. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
You bet, Coach.
All right, so the next question is two questions as well. The first one is, and it makes me feel like maybe they think something is being done differently. They ask, does Forks and Joyce not have to follow the same decision tree for opening their schools? And the same person had a secondary question of, why can't we have the soccer goals up at the track so then soccer players can condition before the season?
The first answer is yes. You know, Squim, Forks, and Crescent are all, you know, under jurisdiction of Clallam County. And, you know, meeting with the superintendents of all the districts of Clallam County, each of our school systems are looking at launching in-person learning at a greater venue or greater grade level learning come October 5th. So we're in lockstep there. There's a difference between like how each district may approach and what grades they bring back. Like, you know, I know Crescent is looking to bring back I think it's K5 on October 5th. The difference there is, you know, just the quant or the number of students that they would have on campus is much less than, you know, what Port Angeles would have on campus. They're a district of K-12 of 200 students. We're a district K-12 of, you know, I know we have 8 sites, but we're a district of 3,500 students. And so, you know, each district looking at their you know, the buildings and or the size of the district have different approaches on how they're going to tackle the reopening process. I'm not sure where Squim sits just yet. I can't speak to that. I think they're still working on their plan for reopening learning. Dwayne, you can take the next part of the question around.
How can you hear me now, Marty? As far as the goals go, we have been given authorization to put the goals up. That becomes a liability for the community. We don't have a way to secure those to the ground except for sandbags. And if something after hours does happen, basically we're liable for that too. That's why we take them apart and we put them away until the season actually occurs for that. So we would like to do that, but at this time we can't until we get approval to do that. Okay. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Coach. So I do see we're at 1 o'clock. However, there is another question that I would like to ask on behalf of Melissa. And I will say to anybody who did type out their answer, if it wasn't fully answered, please feel free to contact the district office here or email Jay wilson@portangeloschools.org, and we will certainly follow up. So the last question is, when should we expect information on the meeting you referenced? I'm assuming that kindergarten one, Marty. And when will we be receiving a kindergarten schedule for the 2.1 stage?
Yeah. So we're scheduling Michelle can piggyback on this because she's working directly with the principals, but within the next either today or Monday, you'll receive some information with regards to date and time of the Zoom that we'll have with all kindergarten parents. And we'll actually record that. So if you're not available, you can watch the recording. It's going to be kind of an interesting Zoom event, meaning, we'll have all kindergarten parents, throughout our entire system online. And then we'll talk about, in more detail, some of the safeguards prior to coming to school that we've talked about in some capacity today. But then we'll actually break out into rooms within the Zoom module, and you'll have an opportunity to work directly with the principal of your school. So it'll be a really nice event to be able to come together to hear the same message, across our entire district, and then have some more intimate time with each building principal to talk about, because every building has a little different procedure based on layout of the school. So Michelle, do you want to add anything to that?
I think you just about covered it, but we will have information that will be going out to all of our kindergarten families on Monday. Teachers and principals are putting the final details together today. So parents will be reminded whether they're in the A group or the B group. We'll review time and calendar and all of those things. And again, we'll have information about our Zoom meeting next week. And that should, again, come out by Monday.
All right. So thank you very much to the community that came out today. I appreciate it. This is an important part of the reopening process so that we continue to engage in two-way conversations rather than one-way. It's really easy to send out emails and press releases, but I think it's really important that, community members have an opportunity, and parents and staff have the opportunity to ask questions. And so really appreciate your time coming out and spending your lunch with me today. Special thanks to Brent Washee and Dwayne Johnson. Thanks for coming out as my special guest today. Certainly appreciate your time. So with that being said, thank you very much and have a great rest of your day and a nice weekend.
Thank you for your leadership, Marty. And
Thanks.
thanks for leadership, Brent.
Thank you, sir.